In a visit to Washington, D.C., the head of the NATO alliance on Tuesday hailed Ukrainian forces for what he said was progress in a counteroffensive against Russian invaders.
And the support that we are providing together to Ukraine is now making a difference on the battlefield as we speak. Because the offensive is launched and Ukrainians are making progress, making advances. It's still early days, but what we do know is that the more land Ukrainians are able to liberate, the stronger hand they will have at the negotiating table.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg met with U.S. President Joe Biden in the Oval Office. He said he expected NATO members to commit further arms and support to Kyiv at an upcoming summit in Lithuania in July.
And that's exactly what we'll do when we meet all the NATO leaders at the summit in Vilnius next month, where we will agree to sustain and step up our support to Ukraine, further strengthen our deterrence and defense.
The NATO chief's visit comes amid questions about how much longer he'll stay on the job. Stoltenberg has held the post for 9 years, and his term is set to end in September. Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year touched off what might be the greatest challenge to the NATO military alliance since the end of the Cold War, one Stoltenberg seems to have faced without wavering.
We believe the Secretary General has done a fantastic job, a really wonderful job during this difficult time, this history-making time, with the war in Ukraine being one of them, and how NATO has come together.
NATO countries have contributed billions in military hardware to Kyiv, and Stoltenberg has since welcomed Finland as the 31st member of the pact, with Sweden apparently set to join soon. Many NATO members would like a decision on who will head the alliance when leaders meet in Lithuania. Stoltenberg did not answer questions when asked whether his tenure would be extended.
Former President Donald Trump sat in a courtroom Tuesday to face charges against him for the second time in a little over 2 months. He pleaded not guilty to 37 criminal charges that he unlawfully kept national security documents when he left office and lied to officials who sought to recover them. Wearing a blue suit and a red tie, Trump frowned and leaned back in his chair, but did not speak during the 47-minute hearing, which was closed to cameras.
I think it's a rigged deal here. We have a rigged country. We have a country that's corrupt.
It was a contrast to later in the afternoon when Trump appeared more spirited as he met with supporters and staff at a Cuban restaurant in Miami in an unexpected stop after his arraignment. Trump was allowed to leave court without conditions or travel restrictions, and no cash bond was required. The judge in the case also ruled that he was not allowed to communicate with potential witnesses. It sets up a long legal battle as Trump, the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination, campaigns to win back the presidency in a November 2024 election. Experts say it could be a year or more before a trial takes place. Trump's spokesperson and lawyer, Alina Habba, called Trump defiant and the prosecution by the Justice Department politically motivated.
The people in charge of this country do not love America. They hate Donald Trump. What we are witnessing today is the blatant and unapologetic weaponization of the criminal justice system.
Trump has repeatedly proclaimed his innocence and accused Democratic President Joe Biden's administration of targeting him. He called special counsel Jack Smith, who is leading the prosecution, a Trump hater on social media on Tuesday. Smith accuses Trump of risking national secrets by taking thousands of sensitive papers with him when he left the White House in January 2021 and storing them in a haphazard manner at his Mar-a-Lago, Florida estate and his New Jersey golf club, according to a grand jury indictment released last week. Photos included in the indictment show boxes of documents stored on a ballroom stage, in a bathroom, and strewn across a storage room floor. The charges include violations of the Espionage Act, which criminalizes unauthorized possession of defense information, and conspiracy to obstruct justice, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. That is the maximum sentence he faces, as he would serve any sentences concurrently if convicted. Legal experts say the evidence amounts to a strong case, and Smith has said Trump will have a speedy trial. Outside the courthouse, a small crowd of Trump supporters cheered as he came and went, while others expressed their opposition to the former president and his actions. Trump's former aide Walt Nauta also faces charges in the documents case. Tuesday marked the second courtroom appearance for Trump this year. In April, he pleaded not guilty to state charges in New York stemming from a hush money payment to a porn star.
On this dusty road in southeast Ukraine, Reuters journalists have made the first independent confirmation that the Ukrainian military's counteroffensive is gaining ground. Now in its early stages, although Russia's government hasn't officially acknowledged the loss of this village or several others. This is the village of Neskuchne in the Donetsk region. It once had a population of several hundred. Now its streets are silent except for artillery fire in the distance. Not a single building is undamaged. Artem is a soldier with Ukraine's territorial defense forces. He's telling us the place was under Russian occupation for a year and a half. The Russians were chased out 3 days ago. He says, quote, "These are Ukrainian lands." It's not clear how much momentum Ukraine's assault is carrying right now, or the losses for each side. This video, released by Russia's military on Tuesday, is said to show American-made Bradley fighting vehicles and German-made Leopard tanks captured from Ukraine elsewhere on the front line. Reuters couldn't immediately confirm the account, or the location, or when it was filmed. Russia's made other claims in recent days of destroying Western armored vehicles that were donated to Ukraine. In Neskuchne, 3 bodies litter the ground, said to be Russian forces. Artem says his unit watched how one of them died on a drone camera. The Russians were carrying their comrade and left him here. These are still the early days of the counteroffensive. Tens of thousands of fresh Ukrainian troops and hundreds of Western armored vehicles are yet to be committed to the fight. But Russia has also had months to prepare, with multiple defensive lines and fallback positions, meaning Ukraine's advance doesn't necessarily mean it's breached through.
A U.S. judge put Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of video game giant Activision Blizzard on hold Tuesday, a court order that went in favor of regulators seeking to block the deal. Microsoft is trying to seal what would be the biggest deal in video game history to acquire the maker of hits like Call of Duty, which the U.S. Federal Trade Commission said could have gone through as early as Friday. However, that's on pause after U.S. District Judge Edward Davila put a restraining order on the deal before a hearing set for next week. Microsoft and Activision now have 2 days to submit evidence to stop a preliminary injunction. Otherwise, before any deal could be struck, regulators will have a chance to make their case in court. The blockbuster deal was approved in the European Union, but blocked in the UK, and the FTC, which enforces US antitrust law, sued in December to try to stop the deal. Those regulators argue Microsoft's acquisition deal would give the company's Xbox exclusive access to Blizzard Activision games and weaken competition, a stance in line with the Biden White House's more muscular approach to antitrust. Activision Blizzard did not immediately comment, and the FTC also declined comment. However, Microsoft responded after the court order on Tuesday, saying that, quote, accelerating the legal process in the U.S. will ultimately bring more choice and competition to the gaming market. It added that a temporary restraining order makes sense until a decision from the court, which it says is moving swiftly.